Good evening, everybody. It's nice to have you here tonight. I'm Commissioner Martha Schrader, and my colleagues are here with me tonight. Chair Smith is taking care of other business, as is Commissioner West, but you have three really good folks here. I hope to get this meeting off to a good start. So I'm going to call to order the September 18th, 2024 North Clackamas Parks and Rec District Board's Directors Meeting. And District Administrator Schmidt, can you give us a roll call?
Yes, Chair Schrader. First, our staff support today. District Council, Jane Beto, District Director, Chiaselli, Clerk to the Board, Andrew Jiraki, supported by Tony Marinick. As the chair has mentioned, Chair Smith and Director West are out of the office today. There is still a quorum. Roll call. Director Savas.
Present. Director
Shull.
Here.
Chair Schrader.
Here. Okay, I'll now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time, and I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed in this business meeting. And Gary is our parliamentarian, so you'll make sure I don't screw up. Okay, and we welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. And Gary, can you please introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair. First is a presentation, a report of the Chair of the District Advisory Committee for the district, Jeanette DeCastro. Chair DeCastro, if you please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, good evening to you all. Hello, Director Savas, Director Schrader, Director Shull. Appreciate you being here tonight. So hi, my name is Jeanette DeCastro. I currently serve on the District Advisory Committee as a member for Sub Area 3 and also as chair. I'm happy to provide a brief report. I always try to be brief. We'll see how that goes. I will try my best. So I will first start with the Wichita Center. I'd like to say a big thank you to our board of directors and to the North Clackamas School District and their board for working so diligently to ensure that the services at that important community resource were continuing uninterrupted and without any need for relocation. And I'm also super thrilled that NCPRD still has the use of district school fields and gyms for programming. So thank you for all that hard work. I want to talk about recruitment, which happened over this summer for new DAC members. Huge kudos to Anita Blackmar and Grover Bortefeld for their DAC side efforts, supported by NCPRD staff, of course, for heading up the recruitment task force. I'd also share that all of the recruitments were contested positions, and we really are thankful for everybody who applied and had that interest in serving the district. As you're all aware, our new members were approved by the board of directors, and they are Daniel Deal from Sub-Area 4, Salma Nasir from Sub-Area 4, Sheila Shaw from Sub-Area 3, and our returning member Grover Bortefeld from Sub-Area 1. I'll also share that this year NCPRD staff did a great orientation for new DAC members to so we could hit the ground running. And we also had an optional tour. That was a fantastic and delightful experience. And if you ever want to hear more about the nutria at one of the parks, you can let me know offline. Happy to share. They're a little bold. The DAC this year has set up several subcommittees with the goal of increasing our capacity. We have a bylaws subcommittee, for example, and we're working to refine those existing bylaws and give flexibility for filling future vacancies. So we will bring those to you at a future date. Stay tuned. Our DAC has noticed increased engagement from community members. I can share that we are always interested in hearing from district residents at our DAC meetings, by email, and in our neighborhoods. Several DAC members are continuing to serve as a connection between their community planning organization or CPO, or their city parks board, or their community center board to the district advisory committee. I understand that sometimes answers to some of those questions can be really disappointing. They aren't always what we want to hear. I both empathize and really want to invite all of my neighbors to continue to have these tough conversations, keep the conversation going so we can continue to work together. I'll jump to the Clackamas Elementary site. So the DAC really appreciated having the meeting, or a special meeting held in June, on June 30th, to talk more about the recovery center and the county's interest in purchasing that property from NCPRD. Thank you so much for sharing that timely information and for giving the community a chance to share concerns with us and with you at the county. So lately I've been using an expression that we're building the plane as we're flying it, but I think I might be able to retire that soon. So I want to talk about the criticality of the system plan work. We're really excited about that. It synthesizes data and community feedback and input, and it gives us a way to set priorities in a fair way. A prioritized capital project list will be really invaluable. And I think that NCPRD and the DAC will be more confident in charting a course forward with the completion of the system plan. And you can use whatever vehicle you like in that metaphor. It's open-ended. But the path forward and really a steady vehicle to make that path go forward, it's really important. We've received robust updates on the system plan during phase 1 and 2. We've been given meaningful ways to support resident participation. And I also want to shout out that the project has included some great collaborations. So that includes like with H3S community liaisons, the Community Youth Action Board, the Chamber of Commerce, Northwest Family Services, coming out to community events. Really appreciated. Good job. The DAC met last Wednesday for our normal meeting. We passed a unanimous resolution. At that meeting, we recommend, as the District Advisory Committee, that our Board of Directors approve the contract with Design Workshop for phases 3 and 4, and as soon as possible, of course, so that that crucial work can be continued. So we're strongly recommended that, and like I said, it's a unanimous vote. So as I reflected on today on some of the DAC work since my last update and some of the district history, of course, I want to continue to look forward, but be informed by the past. It's been such a eventful year. As we keep chugging along, we'll continue to focus on supporting NCPRD and the budget committee work in the way that makes sense. Continuing to improve community engagement, which is always like a baseline for us. The bylaws revision I mentioned, and participating in the systems plan. So thank you for having me this evening. Can I answer any questions for you?
Yeah, colleagues, do you have any questions?
I have.
Oh, folded.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you.
You first, then you,
Chair
Commissioner.
DeCastro, when will the board see the next update on the progress on the system plan?
So I believe that would be a staff report, but I will defer to Director Selliot's tonight. Great. So very soon,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Director Sellis.
I just want to say thank you, Jeanette, for your hard work and leading the group, and Mark, you as well, and all the members of the DAC for all your great work. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for doing this. It's not easy work. And we're glad to have volunteers like you and everyone. Yeah, hey, Grove.
It's a great team.
I know, right? It really is. I do have a quick question. Yeah, when was the last time we had a system plan? I remember back in 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started one in 2015, but it wasn't completed because of the boundary issues. So 2004 was the last time we completed a system plan, so it's due.
It's really overdue, and I think this time we'll be able to make it happen, really kind of get this system going, think in a way that'll keep everybody happy and loving our parks. So, any other comments, colleagues?
Yeah.
Okay, seeing none, thank you again so much.
I have to scoot a little early. No offense intended. Thank you.
It's okay. So Kia, it looks as if you're up next and you're going to do a presentation on the 5-year financial forecast.
I'll do a chair trader.
Oh, you'll do it.
Next
Okay.
presentation, proposed 5-year financial forecast. Director Chiaselli will give a quick presentation. Yeah, please, Kia.
Right, thank you, Gary. Good evening, directors. My name is Kia Selly. I'm the district director at NCPRD. In March, the board was briefed on a 5-year financial forecast for the district. The financial forecast message this evening is consistent with the message delivered earlier this year. Revenues are not keeping pace with the rising cost of doing business, largely due to a static tax base and minimal to no fee increases. In this forecast, we have allocated additional system development charge funds for some capital projects in place of some general fund revenues. And the district remains solvent for an additional year to fiscal year 2031-32, which is just 1 year beyond the forecast you see before you. In this forecast, the capital repair and replacement program funding has also been updated to include revenue from the sale of the Wichita building and property. The forecast for expenditures on capital improvement projects, however, has not been updated beyond the current budgeted capital projects. The system plan will inform those future investments. We will continue to update this 5-year forecast and keep you informed, and we'll use this forecast as a tool for our annual budgeting process.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, any questions? Let's go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, okay, so, revenues aren't keeping up with expenses. What are you looking at in terms of, possibility of taking action to see about increasing the levy?
So we
Is
would look.
that part of the system plan?
So the system plan is not going to advise as to whether we go out for a capital bond measure or a levy or increase the tax rate. Those are, of course, tools that could be mentioned in the menu of other tools. There's kind of a long list, grants, and then some of the tax tools. But there won't be a recommendation per se in the system plan. So we're not making that recommendation at that time, nor is our consultant in the system plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Silas?
Yeah, thank you, Kia, for your presentation. Could you remind us about how much annually we're going underwater, so to speak? We're, again, expenses are outpacing revenues. I think it was somewhere between $500 and $1 million a year, roughly, we're going underwater. Is that about still the case as you see it today?
I'm gonna look to my financial support to see if she can provide a number for you.
It's about, it varies between 800 to about 1.5 million as we go along the forecast.
Okay. All right. I thank you for that. I'm gonna write that down. So for those who are not perhaps aware of that, you said 1.5?
800 to 1.5.
Okay, 800, 1.5 million. I think the long-term plan was one of the concepts was to go out and reform the district with a new tax base, with a higher tax rate, because we are one of the lowest metropolitan
Correct.
tax rates for parks in the state, and we're certainly not keeping pace. That's just a reality we need to address. So in the meantime, I think we always, of course, I appreciate the staff watching our P's and Q's, and we got to be very careful with our money. So But thanks for that. And I look forward to a robust engagement with the DAC, you know, on listening to the DAC on this, on the future regarding finances for the district. So it'll be a robust discussion, and we can look at ways to either save money or generate money or whatnot, but I know the tax rate is a key issue, so thank you.
And one of the things, colleagues, I recall again back in the days, 2004, 5, we had at one point talked about as well, not just this notion that we have to revisit and potentially perhaps the tax rate, but we did talk about bonding for capital improvements at one point and having that as part of the toolkit that we used. And so hopefully, as you work through this system plan, that will give us the clarity to know what tools can be utilized to make sure that this district remains whole and that we're improving parks across the system. All right, so Gary, what's next?
All right, thank you, Kia. Next is a board discussion item. Item 1, approval of a purchase and sale agreement, as well as an intergovernmental agreement with the North Clackamas School District for the disposition of the Wichita property. Kia will present on this as well.
Thank you, Gary. In June, this board and the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors approved a plan to approve the sale of the NCPRD-owned Wichita Center and property to the North Clackamas School District. The intent of the property sale is to allow the supported community services at the Wichita Center to remain uninterrupted. Before you today are 2 agreements. One, a purchase and sale agreement for the transfer of the building and property from NCPRD to NCSD, and an intergovernmental agreement that specifies the terms of NCPRD's use of NCSD fields and facilities for recreation programming. So in exchange for the building and property, NCPRD will receive $2.375 million in cash and a $1 million credit for field and facility use for recreation programming, which must be used in 7 years. We will also receive priority scheduling for youth recreation programming and adult programming, and the lowest rental rate for youth programming. The programming or the cost for adult programming will be a market rate. Clackamas County will also provide NCSD with $1 million in ARPA funds for building repairs at the Wichita Center, which the board will consider next week.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment, you know,
Okay.
yeah, in light of, I'll say partially a heartbreak that we sold that property, which when I first saw the property, when we had the exchange, I was kind of excited what we could do with the property. That same goes for the Clackamas School as well. Concord, we're doing something with that, which is great. We had keys to that building right away, so we could do something with that as far as public involvement and as far as what we did with it. But that said, it's a loss, and properties in the urbanized area are few and far between of any size. So maybe not necessarily for action today, of course, but at least for fodder, I would look to suggest that we take any revenues we receive, these here included, for those properties and put it in a reserve account specifically for acquisition to replace those properties so we can continue to grow the district. So I think that's the right thing to do. I don't know how else we would ever be able to acquire properties and make up the areas in which there are transit deserts. There's areas in the unincorporated area that are severely underserved. They need parks, and children and families and elders can't walk safely to that distance to get to the nearest park. So it's a sad state of affairs, but I think that's a good faith effort to make up for the loss of those 2 properties.
Commissioner Shaw.
Well, I just want to say that the Wichita School, this has been a difficult task for the board and for the staff to look at. It was a traumatic issue for many of the people in the Clackamas County, and a good feeling I have tonight to have the potential for a motion before us to sell this school, and also to accept that the intergovernmental agreement with the school district.
I'm also glad we have it resolved because it was an area that was providing local services for people in that area. We heard loud and clear from them. They wanted to continue those services. We had an issue with the roof and repair. And Administrator Schmidt, you came up with the idea of, so thank you for that. Allocating the ARPA dollars for the roof, which, keeps that whole. And as you said, that's a great idea, Commissioner, to put those dollars in for additional land, but we managed to thread that needle. And I'm glad we did. So, yes.
Just wanted to add on that, I'd be remiss probably if I didn't. I shared this at the joint NCSD meeting with them, and I do my best to say what I said then. That was, it's unfortunate that the misinformation that was circulated created the trauma, both. People were rightfully upset if they believed what they heard, but what they heard often was not anywhere near accurate. That's not uncommon, unfortunately. That said, the history of that was, and I was on the board at the time, was that we would get the keys to those buildings in short time. And the school had plans to relocate the services they were providing at Wichita to another location. Those plans fell through and they got an extension and they were to move on and take action on that to replace that property. That never occurred. COVID hit, it tied things up. Not dissimilar to what happened at Clackamas School with Cascade Heights. That's been resolved, but it was our hope that we would have the keys and be able to do what we want with the property. But we got to a good place all in the end, and the services were important, but we always had a plan to make sure the services were going uninterrupted despite concerns or claims that we were evicting them without notice and so on. So it was unfortunate, but we got past it and we're in a better place today. So
yeah, we are. And if I haven't learned anything else in this job, stuff changes and people, you think you're set on one path and you're ending up on another. But you have to be nimble and just adapt and figure out the best way forward. And I know that you colleagues can help do that. So are there any other comments, friends? Okay, can I have a motion to approve, please?
I move for approval of the purchase and sale agreement, as well as the intergovernmental agreement with North Clackamas School District.
second.
It has been moved by Director Scholl and seconded by Director Savas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, call the poll.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Savitz,
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye, hallelujah. Okay, that one's put to bed.
That's
Okay, it's approved, motion is approved, and, okay, Gary, what's next?
Next is also a board discussion item, item 2, approval of amendment number 2 for the professional services contract with Design Workshop to authorize consulting services for the completion of phases 3 and 4 for the Parks and Recreation System Plan. The amendment value is $4,100. The total contract value is increased to $362,128. Funding is through the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District General Fund. No county general funds are involved. Kia, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. The system plan will provide a 20-year roadmap for district investments that meet changing needs in a way that's comprehensive and balanced across a large geography. NCPRD's last plan was adopted in 2004. In December of last year, the board approved the system plan consultant contract for phases 1 and 2, assessment and community engagement, and directed staff to return to the board following completion of those phases to request contract authorization for phases 3 and 4. So plan development and implementation. Phases 1 and 2 of the system plan have been completed. During phase 1, assets were inventoried and assessed for condition. Areas of high community need, residential density, and park access were all mapped to delineate high priority park deficient areas. And NCPRD was analyzed against similar parks and recreation districts. For phase 2, community engagement feedback on parks and facilities preferences was gathered at numerous community events and meetings and through surveys, including a statistically significant survey that disaggregated data between City of Milwaukee residents and unincorporated area residents. The community survey shows no significant differences in preferences between those two groups. The consultant team is now ready to begin phases 3 and 4, plan development and implementation. In the plan development phase, a 5-year capital improvement plan will be developed with planning level cost estimates and a menu of funding tools. The assessment work of phase 1 will serve as a foundation for prioritizing investments in areas where new and/or improved services are most needed. If the district boundary changes, the plan can be easily amended to reflect projects within the new or amended district boundary. Phase 4 implementation will essentially include production of a final report for me to present to you for final approval. NCPRD's District Advisory Committee, as Chair DeCastro mentioned, has been highly engaged in the system plan project and briefed in each major step in phases 1 and 2. Also, as she noted, last week, the committee approved a motion in support of board approval of the consultant contract design workshop for phases 3 and 4 of the system plan.
All right, great report. Does any director have clarifying questions or comments? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Shaw. Director Shaw.
Question, on the work for phase 3 and 4, when is it to be completed?
We expect to be completed with that work late spring or early summer. It really just depends on how long it takes us to compile a report towards the end and get it to you for your review.
Okay, so next summer sometime.
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Mr. Sachs.
Yeah, well, you probably heard me say this, my colleagues, but probably not everyone in the room was present then, but when we approved the first phases 1 and 2, I spoke to, my concerns and hope that we actually are able to follow through with, approving both the systems plan and also the subsequent plans like SDCs and so forth. So that failed 8, 9, 10 years ago. That's why that 2004 document is so old and tired, and it was unfortunate that for a number of reasons, our city partners were in disagreement in one area and disagreement in another area. Long story short, that led to a loss of all those monies and efforts and time that we went through. I hope that does not repeat itself here again this time. So I have my fingers crossed.
I think we've got great leadership with Kia and Mr. Schmidt, so hope springs eternal. I think we're gonna move ahead and do really well. So colleagues, can I have a motion to approve?
Thank you, Bishop. Director.
Okay. I move for approval of the amendment to the professional services contract with design workshop.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Director Shaw and seconded by Director Savas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the poll.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye, the motion is approved. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. There is one item. I will read it. Approval of meeting minutes from the March 30, 2024 North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting.
Okay, so that's the only thing on the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove that item?
Sure.
Oh, God, please, no,
I mean-
don't you do that tonight.
I move for approval of the meeting minutes for the March 30th, 2024 NCPRD board meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Shull. Any further discussion? Call the poll.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye, motion is approved. Okay, Gary?
Next is District Administrator and District Director update. My update is simply to once again thank the incredible staff of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for all you do every day to support the customers, residents, and folks who live and enjoy the amazing facilities in the district. Many of the staff are here in the room. Thank you for all you do, and those that aren't. Yeah, Kia, go ahead for your director review.
Thank you, Gary. Just a few updates. For the park at Jennings Lodge, design drawings are 50% complete and staff are preparing grant applications to help fund construction. At the Concord property, construction is still underway, and we have actually constructed the new ground floor entry to the renovated community center. We're installing a new elevator and a new roof, and hope that that will be complete before the rain really starts here. Construction of the new playground should begin later this fall, and the site grand opening is still slated for fall of next year. For the Milwaukee Bay Park Project Phase 3, NCPRD staff had successfully retained all local, state, and federal grants. And for recreation, we are winding down a busy summer of events, and last weekend, we held NCPRD's annual Fiesta Latina at North Clackamas Park and drew a crowd of over 1,500 people. Lastly, a couple of quick staff updates. I'd like to congratulate Erin Riom, who's been promoted to Planning and Development Division Director. She received that promotion after a competitive and external recruitment. And I'd like to say thank you to Kevin Kaysen, who's actually here in the back, Parks and Facilities Director, for his 30 years of service to NCPRD as he is retiring in November.
So Gary, next up, am I correct, is?
Public communication.
All right. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of district business, which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the NCPRD Board of Directors is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon revised statutes and county code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I'll take in-person testimony first, and I have 2 cards in front of me, so I'm going to start with Andy Fisher. Hi, Andy. Welcome. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello again. And my name is Andy Fisher. I'm a resident of Milwaukee and the development representative for the Milwaukee Business Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity in this space to speak tonight, and thank you for your service to the community. I'm going to be honest. I started today with a much different testimony. I want to start by saying that I am sharing this story with the consent parties involved. Last night, a close and dear friend called me, asking me to help get them into an inpatient program. They were finally ready on their own terms after 25 years struggle. I spent the next 18 hours with them, trying to get my friend accepted for intake into an inpatient facility with full coverage insurance. I had 2 unsettling calls offering to ship my friend off to Florida or Palm Springs unsolicited, and numerous promises for phone calls in the morning that never came. In one very scolding conversation with the gentleman, saying that we shouldn't be calling at night. I am and was horrified. How can this be happening? How can this be happening to people who are in urgent need of medical assistance? How can we tell someone who's been waiting for 25 years for this moment to finally come? Call back in the morning. Maybe somebody can help you. How does someone with insurance or without insurance or without family and friends there to support them, navigate such a restrictive and uninviting intake process without giving up on it altogether. I know that this board actively is working on programs to provide immediate resources to folks in our community who need them most. I know that this board of commissioners have done a lot of good for this community, and you strive towards partnership with it. With a heavy heart, that now I'm going to ask you, commissioners, who I respect so much for your passion and advocacy, to consider applying this level of care, coordination, and communication. You immediately return to negotiations and discussions with Milwaukee City Hall to get our Milwaukee Bay Park funded and released the $2.4 million federal grant that has an expiration date. Do this for your community, do it for your county. Who, by your own study, prefer the location of the approved and future Milwaukee Bay Park more than any other park in this city. Do this so the residents of Milwaukee and our representatives in City Hall can partner with you and focus our collective and coordinated efforts on resolving our crisis that is crippling our community. Do this so that someone like my dear friend, when they call for help, there's someone there. There's somebody trained. There's somebody ready to help that community member in their most critical of moments and get the medical treatment that they deserve. Thank you for allowing me the time and space to speak tonight. I now leave you with a reflection by Hubert Humphrey and ask that you all reflect on how your choices here and in the coming weeks will demonstrate your commitment to such a charge. The ultimate moral test of any government is the way it treats three groups of its citizens. First, those in the dawn of life, our children. Second, those in the shadow of life, our needy, our sick, our handicapped. Third, those in the twilight of life, our elderly. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, board.
No, that was very powerful testimony. I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming forward. We are working on a recovery center. I think we're aware of that because we are aware that people are having difficulty of a place to land. That has been one of our priorities. Commissioner West isn't here tonight, but I will give him some kudos, colleagues, because he's kind of been championing that and moving that ahead. And I am very hopeful that we will resolve differences so Milwaukee Bay Park will move forward. I believe it will happen. I believe that it will serve everyone in the district. We just need some time to work out the details, and we're all working hard on that. And colleagues, do you have any questions? Any
Yeah, I-
comments? Yes, okay.
From Mr. Fisher, the county staff, medical, health people we have on the staff work very hard to make sure that they're responsive to everybody in the county that's got a need.
Mhm.
And if you had, I'm not sure which agency you had a problem with, but if you were to send an email to any one of us commissioners, we will definitely look into it and see
Yeah.
what the situation is and how we, if in fact, the county staff was involved in some way, how we can do it better. And on the issue of the moving forward on the Milwaukee Bay Park, I'll withhold my comments on that because I think if we're going to talk about that tonight, I would recommend Commissioner Savas field that issue for us.
Commissioner.
That's at
Oh,
a
yes.
time whenever you're.
Yeah, I want to make sure I hear everyone. Yes.
Okay.
So first,
What's the comment?
yeah, I want to
And then
listen to
you'll-
everyone.
you go
I'll
ahead
make sure I
and
listen
talk
intently to
about that.
everyone's concern.
You know, I tend to be I'm sometimes I'm very optimistic that people could work things through. So that's all I'm gonna say about however we move forward with things. Grover, my friend, you're up. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My name is Grover Jeffrey Bornefeld, and I am a resident of unincorporated Clackamas County. I live in Jennings Lodge for 33 years now. And I always like to start off with what I want to do more than anything else is thank you all. That's this part, and this part, and people behind us for just the general, some a little this way and a little that way, but the general progress that we're making on so many things that are important. And while you wear multiple hats, I will just make this for all of the hats you wear. I had an opportunity to see the nearly completed Gladstone Library and was thrilled. So thank you for making that possible. I've been regularly going by and over the back of the Walmart fence, taking pictures of the progress on the Oak Lodge Library and the Concord buildings improvement to be a community center. And then the final touch point on that will be the park that surrounds all of it. And I just, if you all hadn't done what you did, that's all of y'all's. I lived in Mississippi, I could say all of y'all. Those are the things that matter. And then we got the side things we have to talk about every once in a while. And I also want to echo the comments that were made about the system plan. I was one of the unanimous voters to move forward on that. And I'm very focused on I mean, if you see, we're 20 years since the last one. So to get the priorities to actually assess what those needs are is important. And then I will stand strong that we will then follow those priorities to make our choices. I appreciate some people think we should do this, or we should do that. But this, we're spending a good chunk of money, nearly over $250,000 to get experts to assess and then give recommendations. And we need to use that to make choices, not who thinks they need this more or that. The data will be the place that we can look at and make informed choices. And so I just really want to let you know, I got your back on that one, not like you need mine, but I support that. And that's why we're all paying for that. So that's that. I love your suggestion about when we give up property, we put that money into a property fund. We can't make that happen in this conversation, but I actually think that's brilliant. I think we should keep doing that. And there's more of the conversations. I looked at this report for tonight and it actually talks about there are properties that could be disposed of. Well, if that's what happens, let's look at that. But what I also noticed is only a couple of little points in here that I really want to speak to. The system plan shows that 53% of the district residents are not within a half a mile of a facility for them to go to. And those of you who don't know, I spent more than 25 years working in recovery world, dealing with people who had significant disadvantages, whether it be drug or poverty or domestic drug, all of that. And that is what will rally me in a minute to help folks in those kind of conditions. And part of it is that we have an infrastructure that works from. So the gentleman who spoke before me, the very first youth that I ever mentored is now a master's of social work doing intake work for people coming in with drug issues as we speak. So I'm a big fan of that. And I want to, the challenge is we don't have enough money. There isn't enough money in our current system to address all the challenges. So we need to, again, use priorities and unfortunately figure out ways to get more money in there. And I'm with that other comment I was going to make about where all the money went that used to be here, but that's it. I'll leave that unsaid. The other thing that was in here was.
But we're a little over 3 minutes, but I'm being very liberal.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. One last thing I want to speak about. And that is, this points out that we only have 1.9 acres of parkland per 1,000 people, and the average in the nationwide recommendations is 10 times that. So we clearly in the property conversation. But the last thing I want to end on is I serve on several ABCs, and I want to acknowledge the progress, but still look to the need for more. We need more upfront data. So I was thrilled to see in here the forecast. I wish we could get a forecast on the library side of the world. a number of things that will provide us with the data that we need to serve as representatives of the residents and the taxpayers on advisory boards, so we can make advice. If we don't hear about it in advance, we can't advise. So please keep that progress going,
We will.
and I'll keep reminding for options that I think could use a little more work.
You've got me on speed dial, and I think Commissioner Chavez and Commissioner Shell as well, so.
And thank you for being a good listener.
You
Thanks.
bet. Thank you for coming tonight. Last but not least, in person, Jean Nguyen. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I am a member of St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church. We have a creation care and repair team that is very concerned about the controversy around Milwaukee Bay Park. It seems to me that if we did not go forward with these grants of $2.4 million, it would be disrespectful and unconscionable to let those grants go. When I moved here 4 years ago, I looked at the current park and I thought, seems like something better could be there, like trees, more trees. I haven't seen the plan for the next installment of the park, but I understand that it is quite wonderful and eco-friendly. When trees are the lungs of our planet, and I go to I've recently gotten a kayak, and I mostly kayak there in the bay, and have begun to call myself a river person. And it would just be lovely if we could go ahead with that plan. So I hope that we can resolve differences and the city and the county can begin to work together.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I love to kayak too. And I've kayaked around that area pretty frequently. So it's a great spot for sure. So is there anyone, let me move to, is there anyone online that'd like to speak?
I'll now ask that if you're attending virtually and you wish to speak, to please raise your hand and I'll call on you in the order that I see. I currently have one.
All right, let's do it.
Dave Cadwallader. Apologies if that's a mispronunciation. I will now call on you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Dave Cadwallader, Clackamas County resident residing in Milwaukee. I spoke at last week's meeting about the Milwaukee Bay Park project, and I thank you for listening and responding. I would like to address some of the points you made in response to my testimony last week. First, I appreciate your concerns about the responsible use of NCPRD resources and the implications of the City of Milwaukee's potential withdrawal from the district. However, I strongly believe that proceeding with the development of Milwaukee Bay Park is not only fair, but essential for the benefit of all district residents, not just those living in Milwaukee. For nearly 30 years, the City of Milwaukee and NCPRD have enjoyed a productive partnership, collaborating to create parks and recreational amenities that serve our entire community. Milwaukee residents have consistently contributed to NCPRD through taxes, fees, and active participation in district programs. Halting the park's development now overlooks this long-standing collaboration and the significant investments already made. Completing the park would enhance recreational opportunities for all residents of NCPRD, not just those in Milwaukee, stimulating local economies through increased tourism, events, and community activities, and indirectly benefiting taxpayers throughout the district. It is important to note that the City of Milwaukee has not made a final decision to withdraw from NCPRD. The legal action currently underway seeks to clarify the process, ensuring that any future decisions are grounded in a clear legal framework. By moving forward with the park's development now, NCPRD would demonstrate goodwill and a commitment to partnership, which could positively influence the city's decision to remain within the district. I understand your concern about investing resources into a project amidst this uncertainty. However, there already exist protections for NCPRD's investments. In 2021, both parties signed a construction IGA that in termination clause F promises, quote, equal use rights for district and city residents, end quote, and a mechanism to repay prorated development costs if these terms are not met. Addressing the needs of park-deficient neighborhoods, as you mentioned, is undeniably important, but delaying Milwaukee Bay Park does not redirect resources to those areas. It simply stalls a project that is funded and ready to proceed and from which all district residents can benefit today. Furthermore, $2.4 million in grant funding is allocated specifically for Milwaukee Bay Park and cannot be redistributed to other projects. We can and should continue planning for new projects in underserved areas without sacrificing the advancement of Milwaukee Bay Park. In conclusion, I urge you to please work collaboratively with the City of Milwaukee to advance the Milwaukee Bay Park project. Please let us find a way to move forward that respects the ongoing legal proceedings, but also doesn't penalize our residents in the meantime. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Glad you're persistent and testifying on this matter. I'm just going to ask if any of my colleagues up front here have any response.
Oh, I have comments, but I'll just wait to, after you close the public comment, everyone speaks, see if anyone else wants to
Wait
speak.
till that then, now then too, okay. Well, that is it. Is there anyone else?
Laura Pawlowski, apologies if that's a mispronunciation. I also see your hand raised and I'll unmute you.
Good evening.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you got my name right. I'm Laura Pawlowski. I have been a resident of unincorporated Clackamas County for about 8 years now, but I also grew up here. So I was here from about 1985 to 2000 before that. I have become involved this summer with the Milwaukee Parks Foundation because I really do care about having green spaces for families like mine. I've got 2 teenage kids and, they need places to hang out. Parks are great places. So when I became involved, I obviously had questions just like all of my neighbors about Milwaukee Bay Park. I'm going to join the chorus here. Asking to move the Milwaukee Bay Park project forward. One of the events this summer was a free concert in the park. People came in from all over the place, all over Clackamas County. It was a very hot day. We were sweltering with the lack of trees. Kids are getting jumpy with no playground. And I just think that event would have been 10 times better with the project move forward and the kind of amenities that will be there if it does. So as a representative of Milwaukee Parks Foundation, I want to bring up the point that we've raised over $60,000 for the nature play area in the park. That's sitting in a high yield savings account and it'll be available as soon as the park project moves forward.
Thank you for that. I certainly appreciate the Milwaukee Foundation going ahead and actually adding value for new parks. So is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Andrew.
This is a final call. If you are attending virtually, to please raise your hand if you wish to comment. I see none, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that's the end of my list. I will close the public communication portion of this meeting and move on. Gary, what's next?
Final item is board communications.
So, gentlemen. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kind of address some of the issues that have come up here tonight and as recently as also. So I do appreciate everyone's comments and concerns and passion for their projects. It's unfortunate, not dissimilar to the Wichita controversy, that we now have a controversy and a lot of information is either incomplete or woefully inaccurate. Some accuracy, yes, but I'm going to address it in my comments here today. The key issue at hand to advance phase 3 of Milwaukee Bay Park has not changed for over 3 years. No progress has been made on this master intergovernmental agreement we call the master IGA. Hence, phase 3 has not moved forward. During the last several years, when the city of Milwaukee was advocating for phase 3 of Milwaukee Bay Park, the position of the district was that there were 3 IGAs needed to advance the project. 2 of those were approved by this board of directors. Back in 2021, because no progress was being made on the master IGA, the 3rd IGA, then Mayor Gamba, Mark Gamba, and I speak to him, I speak in actual respect of Mayor Gamba. I want to express my appreciation for his professionalism, his willing to talk with me, with others, staff, and his honesty. This is with respect to then Mayor Mark Gamba, who is now State Representative Mark Gamba. So we met on back in 2021. We met Mayor Mark Gamba, the City Manager Ann Ober, Administrator Gary Schmidt, and myself met in our offices on August 12th of 2021 to try to resolve this issue. After much discussion, 2 key points here. After much discussion, Mayor Gamba expressed that the project cost was increasing and that the scope of phase 3 may need to be scaled back to address the funding gap. It never was fully funded. There was and is a funding gap. That funding gap has grown since then, as we understand it, because I guess there were some funds Milwaukee had that they chose to redirect elsewhere. So now the gap is even bigger. Secondly, we verbally agreed at that meeting that updating the master intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, this 3rd agreement, would be the next major step before moving forward with the next phase of Milwaukee Bay Park. The district wanted assurances that Milwaukee would remain in the district and not strand a major investment at the expense of the rest of the district. That is a fiscally, financially responsible thing, and we are responsible for every penny that comes in this district, as well as the county. But today we are here on behalf of NCPRD as a board of directors. The district has limited resources and the funding gap would require additional resources. Attorneys for the district in Milwaukee communicated directly, and a draft revised IGA was shared on May 10th of 2022, months later. So May 10th, 2022. The city of Milwaukee chose not to approve the revised master IGA. I can understand the reason why. Apparently, the city did not accept the state statute ORS 198 as the method of withdrawing from the district, despite a 2018 court ruling that clarified what statute applies for withdrawing from a district. The city chose to seek a validation by the court on July 7th of 2022. The city filed a validation petition to determine if ORS 222 was actually the statute that applied to their case. I think that's an acceptable thing to do. I mean, they're responsible as a city. I don't disagree with their seeking a validation permit, but that does involve a delay of sorts. So a ruling by the court was issued March 30th of last year, March 30, 2023, the city's validation petition, which ruled that ORS 198 indeed applies if Milwaukee were to withdraw. The district was hopeful that we could now move forward with the master IGA. Now that has not been put out there. What I've been hearing from Milwaukee, I've been reading from all the emails, is that they're seeking a validation. Well, they did, and the court ruled. That's what you're not hearing. The court did rule. Unfortunately, Milwaukee chose not to accept the court ruling on their validation permit and filed an appeal on June 21st of 2023. Today, because of the appeal filed by the city, there is no progress on the master IGA as we await the outcome of their appeal. This is the crux of the delay. Again, our position and agreement with Mayor Gamba has not changed. We need a revised master IGA that aligns with state law. This one currently does not. And of course, with the disposition of that much money, it's what we have to do. It is unfortunate the city has chosen to spin some inaccurate narratives. There are several parks in the unincorporated area that have not been improved. In other words, parks that are at phase 0, not phase 1 or phase 2, but at phase 0, due to limited resources. I appreciate the constituents that have shared their frustration with the misrepresentations coming from the city's inaccurate narratives. We have constituents that feel that there is a fairness issue, an unfairness with the city asking for more and more while their own parks are few and far between, as well as unimproved. One constituent asked me why the board of directors are not aggressively advocating for their parks, such as Milwaukee is for Milwaukee Bay Park. My response is, there just isn't enough money. We just don't have those resources. A constituent who resides within Milwaukee felt that their taxes should be spent on Milwaukee Bay Park. And my reply today is that they have been. In fact, disproportionately more district taxes go into Milwaukee than we receive. That's a fact. Milwaukee has also expressed they want more resources and a higher level of service, which equates to providing less to the remainder of the district. That's not fair. Essentially, Milwaukee appears to have received preferential treatment at the detriment of the remainder of the district, and they want that to continue. In summary, Milwaukee Bay Park is stalled because no progress on the master IGA has been made. The grants are or have been at risk. They have been extended, as Kia shared with us. But they're at risk if we don't get a response to the appeal soon. But again, the city chose to appeal the very decision they sought. Perhaps the reason the city is appealing the validation ruling they sought is because the city feels withdrawal from the district is more important than Milwaukee Bay Park. I don't know. Perhaps it is. Be that as it may, making the commissioners and the board of directors scapegoats by blaming the county and district for these delays on Milwaukee Bay Park, that this delay we didn't cause, we feel is unfair and unprofessional. If I were to address all the false statements, we would be here for hours, but I leave you with this question. Is it true that Milwaukee will leave the district as soon as Milwaukee Bay Park is complete? We don't know, but that's a rhetorical question. Perhaps we can find out, but I again, not unlike the Wichita Center or the turnkey project or several controversial items, so much misinformation is out there, and I go with the facts as I know them, and I trust our legal counsel. I've been a member of this district since it was formed. I voted to join this district, and frankly, I think that if people understood the difference between those two statutes, ORS 198 and ORS 222, ORS 198 is really the basis for what most districts are formed in the state of Oregon. The voters vote to form a district, to form a function, and tax themselves to do that. That's what ORS 198 is. ORS 222 allows a city, in this case, to join a district by a vote of the council and withdraw with a vote of the council. Okay, so in this case, not the city of Milwaukee, but the residents of the boundaries of the city, as well as the entire district as we know it today, voted to join together and essentially to form a district at a certain tax rate. And to have that as a means of entry and use ORS 222 as a means to exit would essentially subvert the will of the voters. Think about that for a minute. The voters vote to be in a district, and 3 votes on a city council could remove it. That doesn't really seem fair, and that's why it's actually not constitutional. And that's why we expect, or why we think the 2 judges who ruled on this in 2018 and last year ruled that way. Because as I understand it, and I was a member of special districts many years ago, as I understand it, that's how our Constitution is formed. So I could be here again all night talking about this, but we are honoring that agreement. And if Milwaukee accepted the court ruling by the judge, the validation permit they sought, and waived the appeal, we could move forward. But we're not.
Well, thank you for that history. Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Shaw, have you done anything that you'd like to say?
I have nothing to add regarding Commissioner Savas's comments. Covered it very well, explained it very clearly. Thank you very much for that.
So just let me say something here after being here for years. Okay, I love parks. And I'm a believer that a rising tide raises all boats. And that's Milwaukee Bay Park will be a fantastic amenity not, I think, for the whole area. That's the truth of it. The dilemma we're facing here, if you want just my thoughts and having been here for many years, is that there is a tension between where the land is and the fact that we have an unincorporated area that oftentimes is in a park's desert. So to me, that's what the conflict seems to be. I just want to remind everybody, a park is a park is a park. And whether it's located in one spot or another, but we do, the folks have to be fair to our unincorporated areas because truly they're kind of in a park desert. And part of the issue we have with park desert is that it's, we can only find so many parcels in that area. Okay, so our job is to try and serve both masters, to work with our city and to make sure our incorporated area also gets the park services they need. And I think the history is important. I understand where the rubs are with this and that the rub is that we've got this outstanding, Jane, it's the appeal. So my hope is this, my hope is we can get through that, come back to the table, get Milwaukee Bay done, and at the same time, make sure unincorporated gets what they need, because there are no artificial boundaries here. Yeah, the city has an utmost, city has it, but everybody in the area, no matter where you are, unincorporated or in the city, you're all using the same parks. So maybe we just need to kind of take a look at that in that way. And I appreciate the dilemmas we've been facing. It is a dilemma, but it's our job, colleagues as elected officials, as well as our colleagues in Milwaukee, to work this through, because everybody's going to get what they need then. And if we keep circling the black hole here, we're not going to get anywhere. So my pledge to you, to the best of my ability, I would like to see everybody get what they need. Let's put aside our differences and let's make sure that all the good work we've been doing with Concord and the library and the other parks and the work that we would like to continue with Milwaukee Bay, there's no doubt they're all amenities for all of us. So all I can hope for is peace in our time, folks. Peace in our time. And it's a dilemma, but I remain, I'm always hopeful we can work this through. Given enough time, given enough energy, given enough meeting with people, we'll move it forward. I really truly believe that. So anything else for the good of the order now that I went out? Yes, yeah.
It's also important to mention, a month ago, Council Veto was asked a question, how long will it take for the 21 June 2023 appeal from the city of Milwaukee to be decided by the court? And I think the answer was 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months.
And that is something we have no control over. And I can tell you, we spent a lot of time on this, and I am very anxious for the court to decide on that appeal, so we can move ahead, and we won't have to spend time spinning our wheels on this issue. But again, when the city of Milwaukee filed last year on the 21st of June to appeal the decision from the court, it put us in this situation. And we cannot move ahead with the revision of the IGA until we hear from the court.
That is actually, is it not, Jane? I mean, can you expound just a little bit on that?
On the deadline?
Well, the deadline is we don't know when the deadline is.
We do not have that, it has been briefed, but we do not have a date for it.
Okay, so.
We don't have a date for
Argument for the judge.
Yeah. See, folks, once it moves from administration, our policy piece, and it moves into the legal system, God help us all. Because that is a process that doesn't always move very, 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 very quickly. And sir, I know you want to say something, but I think what I'm going to do is adjourn now, and then I'd be glad to come up and chat with you, or if everybody wants to stay and chat, we can do that. Okay, anything else for the good of the order, folks? Okay, with that, we are adjourned, but we're still here and I think that we still have some folks that want to chat, so.